Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of this video without any interruption, and then I'll go back and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on, and about things that I think were done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Assistant Sheriff Andrew Walsh, and I'm here to brief you today about the additional details as we know them today from the officer-involved shooting that occurred on Monday, January 10th, 2022. This was officer-involved shooting number 2 for 2022, fatal officer-involved shooting number 2 for 2022, and this time last year we had 0 officer-involved shootings. This event was initiated as an investigation follow-up at 3:23 a.m. on January 10th, 2022. The officer-involved shooting occurred in an apartment complex located in the 3000 block of South Nellis Boulevard, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89121. This is located in the Southeast Area Command, and you can see this depicted on the image on the screen to my left. The involved officers involved in this incident are Sergeant Russell Backman. Sergeant Backman is 46 years old, and he has been with the LVMPD since 1999. In this incident, Sergeant Backman was armed with a Colt M4 carbine 5.56 rifle equipped with tactical light and optics. The investigation revealed that Sergeant Backman fired 3 rounds during this incident. The next officer involved is Officer Bryce Clements. Officer Clements is 36 years old, and he has been with the LVMPD since 2009. In this incident, Officer Clements was armed with a Glock 17 9mm handgun equipped with a tactical light, and the investigation revealed that Officer Clements fired 13 rounds during this incident. The next officer involved is Officer James Rothenberg. Officer Rothenberg is 39 years old, and he's been with the LVMPD since 2008. In this incident, Officer Rothenberg was armed with a Glock 9mm handgun equipped with a tactical light. The investigation revealed that Officer Rothenberg fired 3 rounds during this incident. The next officer involved is Officer Alex Gonzalez. Officer Gonzalez is 39 years old, and he's been with the LVMPD since 2006. In this incident, Officer Gonzalez was armed with a Colt M4 carbine 5.56 rifle equipped with a tactical light and optics. And the investigation revealed that Officer Gonzalez fired 3 rounds during this incident. The next officer involved is Officer Kerry Kubla. Officer Kubla is 50 years old, and he's been with the LVMPD since 2008. In this incident, Officer Kubla was armed with a Colt M4 carbine 5.56 rifle equipped with a tactical light and optics. The investigation revealed that Officer Kubla fired 1 round during this incident. And all of these officers that I just mentioned are assigned to the Homeland Security Division and are assigned as members of our Special Weapons and Tactics team. The suspect in this event was identified as Isaiah Tyree Williams. Isaiah was a 19-year-old black male adult who was 5'9" and weighed approximately 155 pounds. He is pictured on the screen to my left, and in this incident, Williams was armed with a Glock Model 22 40 caliber handgun, and the investigation revealed that Williams fired 18 rounds during this event. Williams' charges, had he survived, he would have been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder with the use of a deadly weapon on a first responder, battery with a deadly weapon with substantial bodily harm on a first responder, assault with a deadly weapon on a first responder, and 3 counts of discharging a firearm into an occupied structure. And the details of the officer-involved shooting are as follows. On Monday, January 10th, 2022, members of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Special Weapons and Tactics team were assigned to serve a search warrant at an apartment located in the 3000 block of South Nellis Boulevard. The search warrant was part of an investigation follow-up related to a homicide that occurred in our jurisdiction in November of 2021. At approximately 5 a.m., members of our Special Weapons and Tactics team approached the apartment and announced their presence by yelling out "Police Department search warrant" multiple times. SWAT officers broke out a window to the apartment and used loud diss tracks while announcing "Police search warrant." And as this was occurring, other SWAT officers used a breaching tool to gain entry through the apartment's front door. After several attempts, SWAT officers were able to force the front door open. As the SWAT officers made entry, they were immediately met with gunfire from a male who was later identified as Isaiah Tyree Williams, who was laying on a couch next to the front door. SWAT officer Kerry Kubla was the first to enter the apartment and was shot multiple times by Williams. Officer Kubler fired one round before falling to the ground. SWAT Sergeant Backman and SWAT Officers Clements, Rothenberg, and Gonzalez exchanged gunfire with Williams until he was struck and stopped firing his weapon at officers. SWAT Officer Kubler was given aid at the scene and was rushed to University Medical Center Trauma Section, where he has since been receiving treatment for his injuries. SWAT Officer Clements sustained an injury to his left arm, and he was also transported to UMC Trauma and released a few hours later. Williams was declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel. And during this investigation, detectives determined that Williams was not the suspect in the homicide from November of 2021, and that suspect was not in the apartment during the officer-involved shooting. We're now going to show you some body-worn camera footage from Officer Kubler, and I warn anybody, especially if you're streaming this live, that this video is very graphic. And what you're going to see first, the first part of the video, is the officers announcing their presence, stating that they were there for purposes of serving a search warrant, and then we'll let it go from there.
Police Department search warrant, 1125. Police Department search warrant. Police Department search warrant! Police Department search warrant! It's a 3050 South Dillon. Police Department search warrant. Police Department search warrant!
And the next video we're going to play is a body-worn camera from Officer Rothenberg from outside the apartment where you heard the glass breaking. That was where his position was as a part of this team. And you can see in this still photo, this was taken from Officer Kubler's camera. This is after he was shot, fell to the floor, and you can see the suspect laying on the couch, the muzzle flash from his weapon, and then you can see the SWAT officers on the entry team being fired upon by the suspect as he's on the couch. The next photo, this is Officer Kubler's vest. One of the rounds that he was struck with struck the left side of his vest, which would have been covering his part of his torso, and then there's the bullet actually lodged inside the vest. This is Officer Kubler's holster, or thigh rig, and you can see the damage from the bullet is circled there, but you can see where the crack in the holster over by where the barrel of his firearm would be, his handgun would be. And then the next photograph, this is Officer Kubler's rifle, the muzzle of his rifle, which was also struck by gunfire. This is the shield that Officer Rothenberg had on the outside window of the apartment, and you can see where the shield was struck by gunfire. So when the suspect was laying on the couch, he not only had the opportunity to fire at the officers on the entry team, but he also fired rounds through the window at the officers that were on the outside. And that concludes this briefing. Yes, sir.
Are warrants like this typically served in the early hours of the morning, like 3 a.m.?
Yes. One of the challenges is when you have a high-risk warrant like this, you have to take into consideration the danger to the officers, the danger to the community. You know, if you're ever in that area and in that neighborhood, you could see it different times of the day. You have children that live in that apartment complex. You have families that are out trying to enjoy the common space and of that neighborhood. And in the early morning hours, it's much safer for the officers, and it's much safer for the community for us to do it at that time because there's less people out.
Can you tell us where Officer Kubler exactly was hit and how he's doing now?
So Officer Kubler was struck in both of his arms and in his one of his legs. And I appreciate you asking that question because he's got a very long road ahead of him. He's still receiving treatment at the hospital for his injuries, and he's in our thoughts and prayers.
And it turned out Mr. Williams was not your suspect. Do you still have reason to believe that that suspect was related to that apartment? So you weren't in the wrong address?
No, we weren't in the wrong address. We had information. The information that came about was when our homicide section had done a press release related to the murder that occurred in November. We gave that information to the media. You all were gracious enough to put that video out there for us, which led to information coming to the homicide detectives, which put the suspect who committed the murder at that apartment, and that's how we were able to gain the search warrant for that apartment. And that suspect has since been taken into custody.
Did Williams ever say that he wasn't the suspect in that murder case?
No, Williams did not survive. He did not.
No, before you guys approached, did he ever say anything vocally that he wasn't your guy? Or was he just silent before you guys entered the apartment?
That's correct.
Was Mr. Williams identified as a known felon?
No.
How many bullets did the suspect?
I don't know if I think.
How many he fired?
No, how many hit the suspect? Do we have that from autopsy?
How many were fired?
18. We fired a total of 8.
No, are you asking how many the suspect fired?
No.
No.
How many, Scotty, how many did we fire total? It was 3. I'd have to do the math real quick in my head. I can go through that.
20.
But you don't know how many.
We fired 24, so we fired 18.
Can you just speak to him being armed like that and being like prepared for a SWAT entry? I mean, that seems like that just, you know, he was on the defensive for some reason.
Yeah, and we don't typically in these briefings discuss the previous criminal history, but that is his history gives us an indication that he may have been concerned about police and police coming to a location where he would be located at, but unrelated to the murder investigation that brought us there. Thank you very much.
Well, let's get in.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Assistant Sheriff Andrew Walsh, and I'm here to brief you involved is Officer Alex Gonzalez. Officer Gonzalez is 39 years old and fired 3 rounds tactical life during this incident. The next officer involved is Officer Bryce Clement, M4 carbine and is 46 years old. You can see this depicted on the...
Okay, so as I said before, I like how they do, I partially like how they do their briefings. I like how they indicate that this is OIS number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And then they give some kind of background information, you know, who all the players are, etc. I like that part. I like how they provide a map. I like how they provide the still photos and everything in there. I think they do a pretty good job of laying information out. The only thing I don't like is what you saw there at the end. He said that they typically don't discuss their prior criminal history. And I think that's important, especially for this one, because that reporter had a really good question about, you know, why is this guy on the defensive, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you know, we typically don't go into their criminal background, but, you know, based on this guy's, his lifestyle, you know, he was concerned about the police coming to him. So, yeah, that tells me dude was a little fucking shithead doing shithead things and was a fucking scum of society. I mean, that's a no-brainer right there. Now, when that reporter asked, you know, why is he on the defensive? Why is he prepared like that? My first thought was, well, what the hell's wrong with being prepared? I mean, I'm prepared in case someone kicks the door in for a home invasion. I'm ready to put rounds in someone's snot box. I'm not going out being a shithead, doing shithead things. I'm not out robbing people and breaking into homes and dealing drugs and doing gangster shit. I live a pretty normal life. I'm a good guy. But I still am prepared in the event that someone kicks my door in. So when he asked that question the way he did, I don't know, I guess it kind of struck a nerve with me. But for this guy, you know, his reasons for being prepared is because he's a little shithead. He's out there committing crimes and being on the wrong side of the law, basically.
Image on the screen to my left. The involved officers involved in this incident are Sergeant Russell Backman. Sergeant Backman is 46 years old, and he has been with the LVMPD since 1999.
1999. Holy shit. Dude has, dude's been there for a minute. Probably lots of knowledge with that guy. And I don't know about, obviously I can't speak for the whole nation or whatever, but I can tell you that the officers from the 90s they're pretty good officers, and a lot of them are retiring and getting out, and agencies are taking a hit with those guys retiring. because some of these new crops coming in, it's just, it's sad. It really is. But that's and that's a whole nother rant for another video. But yeah, this dude's on since 1999. The other ones seem to have some pretty decent amount of time on as well, which would be, I guess, kind of typical for, people being assigned to a more, I guess you could call it, prestigious kind of assignment where they're SWAT team and they're working with Homeland Security. Obviously, they're not going to take a brand new rookie right off the street and put them in such an assignment. So, interesting gun, I guess you could say. I kind of somewhat seriously doubt that he went and got the stippling done on this gun and had everything done the way it was. I would be more inclined to believe that this is a stolen gun. That's typically how it is with the street thugs. They steal guns. Now, they did say that he was not a known felon. So, the possibility also exists that he went to a store and bought this. Or he actually, did a legitimate legal buy on this thing. But just based off, the looks of it, street thugs, they don't typically go with this stuff. The little Punisher skull kind of bullshit, that's a gun person kind of thing. That's a person who's into collecting guns and stuff. Your street thugs don't get into that. Which is like I said, that's kind of what makes me think this is probably a stolen gun. But if not, then if he did buy it, then he probably got a deal on it. And if he did buy it himself, he may have thought that it looked cool. I don't know. But my bet is it's probably stolen.
Police Department search warrant, 1125. Police Department search warrant. Police Department search warrant! Police Department search warrant! It's a 3050 South Dillon. Police Department search warrant!
So, boom, right there. The dude's on the couch. Now, they made themselves known. They were pretty loud with their verbals.
There for purposes of serving a search warrant, and then we'll let it go from there.
Police Department search warrant, 1125. Police Department search warrant. Police Department search warrant! Police Department search warrant! It's a 3050 South Dillon. Police Department search warrant.
So, they beat the shit out of this door 4 or 5 times, and before they started beating on it, they're yelling. You hear glass break. You hear an FDD go off inside. This dude should know that this is the police outside, and it's not some rival thugs coming to steal his stash, right? There's no doubt that who's outside this door is the police. And he chooses to shoot. So this isn't a scenario where, the poor little baby was asleep and then the police kicked the door in and he thought it was a home invasion. No. That's not the case at all. There is no mistaking this is the police. So as soon as an officer makes entry, boom, he starts shooting. Rifle comes up. These officers are in here shooting. He's, of course, shooting at them.
And the next video we're going to play is a body-worn camera from Officer Rothenberg from outside the apartment where you heard the glass breaking. That was where his position was as a part of this team.
Now, I wish that they would have provided a map of the room to give you a better idea where this dude's at. What I think is going on is, see if I can freeze frame it better. Well, you can kind of see it. All right. So this is the couch right here. So the door is over in this area, I believe. And that's what I think the layout is. So here's the corner of the outside. So that would be the corner of the room. This is head pointing towards this corner right here. They made entry over in here somewhere at this door. So they come in. Actually, before they even come in, this window's breached, and they throw an NFDD in there. You hear that go off. They finally breach that door, make entry. He starts shooting, and then they decide to start shooting through the window at him.
And you can see in this still photo, this was taken from Officer Kubla's camera. This is after he was...
So even for laying down and shooting one-handed, I mean, I'm not trying to like give this guy props by any means, but laying down on the couch after having just woken up and having a freaking flashbang go off right next to him and shooting one-handed, like he did okay putting rounds on them. And that's, and this is an untrained guy too. And so this is why it is imperative that you carry first line medical gear on you and that you have some knowledge on how to treat traumatic wounds. Because shitheads like this can get lucky hits. Like, this guy's not trained. He's laying on the couch. Just had a fucking flashbang go off near him. He's shooting one-handed. And he puts that many hits on officers. Like, those are lucky hits. Like, he's not even fucking aiming. He's not even looking at the sights. He's not even looking, lining the sights up. He's just firing blindly. And he put that many hits on officers. So that is imperative why you should always carry first line medical gear on you. Not keeping your shit in the car, but keeping it on you. And having the knowledge on how to use that stuff is an imperative. If you're going to carry the tools to induce trauma, you need to carry the tools to reduce trauma. If you're in the profession of being armed, even if you're not in the profession of being armed and you're just a regular person who does like IT work, or you work in a factory or warehouse, whatever, and you decide to carry a gun with you all the time or keep a gun in the house for defense, you obviously have to recognize the fact that you could be involved in a gunfight. And a gunfight means rounds are going both directions. And you could be hit. You have to recognize that possibility. If you are not recognizing that possibility, then you are wrong. There is something wrong with you. You need to unfuck yourself. The possibility of you being shot exists. You have to carry first line medical gear on you, and you have to have the knowledge on how to treat injuries. You have to know how to treat yourself and treat your team or treat your family. There's a wealth of information out there. A wealth of information. Now, I don't always advocate that you learn shit off YouTube, but hell, if you can't afford to go someplace, you can at least watch a freaking YouTube video and get a better understanding on how to apply a tourniquet. or how to do a pressure dressing or something like that. If you've got the extra cash, then by all means, 100% go to a class. Learn the medical stuff. Learn how to stop the bleed. A lot of people, when they are shot, they have survivable wounds if they can get that pre-hospital treatment soon enough. In EMS, there's a couple terms. One, the platinum 10, and then the second is the golden hour. So the platinum 10 is within the first 10 minutes of an injury occurring, you being able to provide pre-hospital care. That increases a person's chances of survival to a certain percent. I don't know what the hell that number is off the top of my head, but it's a pretty good number. So within 10 minutes of an injury occurring, if you can provide some type of pre-hospital care to that person, their chances of survival go up by X amount. If you can get someone some pre-hospital treatment and into a hospital within an hour, their chances of survival go up. When you look at cases like active killer events, and going back to Columbine, there were people there who had survivable wounds. They would have survived. One of them was a teacher. I forgot his name. I think it was Mr. Sanders. He was a teacher there. He got shot in the hallway, retreated to a classroom, barricaded in, and there were students in that classroom. And one of them had some very basic first aid knowledge from Boy Scouts, and they were able to kind of stop the bleed a little bit. But they waited, everyone in that building waited for the police for an extremely long amount of time. And by the time the police went in there, cleared the building, and then was able to get EMS to people, he already died. If he had been treated way before, he would have survived. Same with more recent Pulse nightclub. There were people in Pulse nightclub who had survivable wounds. They would have lived if EMS had got to them a lot sooner. Same thing with Las Vegas. And interesting enough, this is a Las Vegas video. I forgot the guy's name, the dude that shot from the hotel down at the concert. There were people there who had survivable wounds. They would have survived if they got in treatment a lot sooner. There's people all across this nation who get into car wrecks and other traumatic events. If someone there knew how to treat their injuries, they could survive. But instead, you just have people standing there holding their fucking hand, praying with them. That shit don't work. Science works. If you're going to, like I said, if you're going to carry a gun for a living, then you need to carry medical gear as well. Because little shitheads like this can get lucky hits in. The medical gear that you carry on you is your first line medical gear. That needs to be stuff to treat traumatic wounds. I'm not saying you need to carry Band-Aids on you. A Band-Aid is not going to do shit for a gunshot wound. Not at all. You need to carry specific equipment. So your first line medical gear needs to be on you. When you're tacked out like this, tacked out, inside joke. When you're tacked out like this, obviously you have the means to affix a large IFAK somewhere on the vest or something like that, or somewhere on your body because you're all kitted out. There should be no excuse whatsoever for a person on a SWAT team not to have medical gear on them. If there's someone on a SWAT team somewhere in this country who does not have medical gear on them, they're a problem. They're a huge problem. Patrol officers, even if you don't have all this crap on, all you got is your concealed vest under your uniform shirt, you can still carry medical gear. You can get something called a pocket VOC and keep it in your pocket. You can get a medical ankle holster and carry medical gear in this little ankle holster. It's very super simple. There's at minimum, bare minimum, you can carry a tourniquet on you. And there's little tourniquet holders you can put on your duty belt. Doesn't take up a whole lot of space. Takes up probably the same amount of space as your baton pouch or your OC pouch. Very minimal amount of space. There are ways to carry medical gear on you. So there's no reason why you should not have at least one piece of medical gear on you. I understand that some agencies are poor. Their funding sucks. Their pay scale sucks. There's actually, believe it or not, there are officers in this nation right now working for $12 an hour. There are full-time police officers right now in the year 2022 working for $12 an hour. Working for $15 an hour. Okay? Yeah, that's not a lot of money, but you can still get some of the stuff on your own even when you're paid a shit wage. It's just called sacrifice. Instead of eating out 5 times a week, how about you make some sandwiches and take them to work? Save a little money. Put that towards a good tourniquet to be able to keep on you. For the agencies that's able to provide this stuff, great. I wish more agencies could provide this stuff. But the big takeaway is it has to be on you. You can't rely on having this stuff in your car. I'll keep the tourniquets in my car. Well, that car might as well be parked in fucking China, right? If same thing with the same concept with people who want to keep their their rifle in their car and then go work some static event somewhere. Like, that rifle in that car is not going to do you any good when you're 100 feet away from it. When you're 20 feet away from it. Like, it's most of the time it's shit. It's not going to do you any good. You have to have it on you right then and there. So your medical gear has to be on you. That's your first line medical gear. Your supplemental medical gear can be kept in the vehicle. That can be a larger IFAC pouch that has additional stuff in it to supplement the gear that's on you that you've already used on yourself or used on someone else. Or the supplemental gear can be used on other people. You want to reserve your first line gear for you, your team, or for armed citizens, for your family. The only time you use your first line gear on other people is when you know for sure there is no possibility of any more gunplay going on. That's the only time you ever use your first line gear on a non-team member or non-family member. Everyone else can wait for the supplemental gear to get to them. So that I'm gonna end that on my medical rant. So, they make entry. He shoots at them. They shoot back. Not much to say about the entry. I mean, I think they did a pretty good textbook entry there. This, of course, some people would bring in the topic of a explosive breach or something like that. Not all agencies get to have that luxury, I guess you could say. And sometimes the situations don't always dictate the ability to use those things. But other than that, I think their tactics were fine. I mean, they were trying to breach the door. They had someone breach the window, throw in an NFDD. They make entry, and then you know what? Shit happens. So I don't think they did anything wrong on their tactics or anything like that. The only, I guess, really negative thing to say is this guy with a pistol. If you're going to be on an entry team, I think everyone on that entry team needs to have a rifle. So that's really the only thing I can say that's negative at this point, is the fact that the only thing he had was a pistol. I think it would have been a lot better if he had a rifle or shotgun to use on this guy. But other than that, nothing else. The vest here. So this appears to be. I'm not 100% sure what kind of vest this is, but it almost looks like it would overlap. This looks like this could be the front of the vest, and it would maybe overlap there. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a big fan of vests that kind of split in the middle like this. I think they need to be full frontal, and you enter in through the side. This is not the greatest photo to be looking at. I don't think that this is the front. It looks like it'd be too deep of a cut there. I don't think this is the side. It looks like this might be the front. I don't know what vest this is. And this looks like this could be the cummerbund that goes across the front as well to bunch this together. But yeah, like I said, I'm not a big fan of those vests that split across the front there. I prefer the big panels in the front, and then you just enter in the vest through the side. But he took around there. This might be, I don't think this is from the first vest, because we see the hole right there. And then
left side of his vest, which would have been covering his part of his torso, and then there's the bullet actually lodged inside the.
So it looks closer to the edge. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but you can see the round caught inside the vest there.
Vest. This is Officer Kubla's holster or Tyree.
So his pistol takes a hit. I wish they would provide more photographs of the gun out of the holster to get a better idea of what kind of damage is going on here. But, you have to think or consider that this backup gun, because that's what this is at this point, is a backup gun if you got a rifle, could be damaged. And where it locks or engages within the ejection port here, there's a possibility that this gun might not be able to come out. You might, disengage the hood and then press on the little thing in the back to disengage it from here, and it might not be able to disengage. So then the thought process of, well, your ankle gun or your backup gun, do you still wear that? And I would say absolutely, still go ahead and wear your ankle gun, even though you've got your main sidearm and your rifle. Because what if this turned into a prolonged gunfight, and when we see which I think the baffle for the silencer for the rifle is from another officer, and this is from another one. But I mean, shit, what if you take a strike to the silencer, you screw your baffles up, and your rounds aren't coming out, or your cam blows on you, and then you can't get this gun out? What are you gonna fight with? The chances of that happening are pretty slim, but it's not an impossibility. So, but I wish they would provide more photos on this. I would have liked to have seen what the pistol looks like in there.
You can see the damage from the bullet is circled there, but you can see where the crack in the holster over by where the barrel of his firearm would be, his handgun would be. And then the next photograph, this is Officer Kubla's rifle, the muzzle of his.
So usually baffle strikes are internally when the bullets are trying to come out. Typically it's not from the other direction. And I have to say, this is probably the first time I've ever seen a silencer hit from this angle. It's kind of interesting to see a hit like this. So that's also something that's not uncommon. So when you look at force on force training, and then even sometimes when you review actual shootings, you can see that people's guns are hit, and or their hands and their forearms from where they're aiming the gun is hit. And this has to do with basically, I guess you could say, threat focus. People are focusing on the most deadliest thing. That's what their eyes just naturally gravitate towards. And as they're focusing on that and they're shooting back, that's kind of how their hands are gravitating up towards where the eyes look, the hands kind of go towards. It's kind of same as car wrecks out in the country. And there's one tree. There's not another damn thing around for hundreds of yards, but a person goes off the road and into a field and miraculously somehow hits the only single fucking tree within a 200-yard radius. Why is that? Why is it that when the police have someone pulled over on the side of the road at night, a drunk driver crashes into them? It's because when people focus on things with their eyes, the rest of their body acts in a way to go towards where the eyes look. So in the case of, people driving down the road, drunk people driving down the road, or not even drunk people, people driving down the road and seeing the police with someone pulled over, they're rubbernecking. They're seeing what the police are doing. While they're looking at the car, they are subconsciously steering the car towards what they're looking at without even thinking about it. Same with car accidents, someone hitting a tree out in the middle of nowhere. They go off the side of the road and they're focused on that tree and they're thinking, oh shit, there's a tree. And because they're staring at that tree, their hands aren't moving and they're still going towards that damn tree. If they would avert their eyes from that tree, look to the left, look to the right, and think about steering, then they would go away from that tree. Same with the people who hit the back of cop cars. If they would stop looking, stop rubbernecking, keep their eyes on the fucking road, they keep going straight instead of veering off to the right and hitting the damn car and hurting people. So the same things happens in gunfights. People will look towards the gun and their hands just kind of inevitably point in that direction as they shoot, and you see guns get hit, you see hands get hit, and you see forearms get hit. So although this is not something that is like, oh wow, that's a 1 in a million kind of thing, it's not that, because this is something to be expected, but I think this is the first time I've ever seen a silencer with a baffle strike from the outside. Typically your baffle strikes occur within the silencer.
Rifle, which was also struck by gunfire. This is the shield that Officer Rothenberg had on the outside.
So the shield took a hit, and the shield took a hit towards the corner as well. I don't know what brand this is or anything like that. It's obviously been put to use. Lots of scrapes and everything on it. Edges are concerns for armor. And this thing seemed to hold up pretty well with taking a shot towards the edge right there. And it did its job.
Side window of the apartment, and you can see where the shield was struck by gunfire. So when the suspect was laying on the couch, he not only had the opportunity to fire at the officers on the entry team, but he also fired rounds through the window at the officers that were on the outside. And that concludes this briefing. Yes, sir.
So yeah, not much else really to say about this video. I think the biggest takeaway that I want people to have on this is medical gear. This doofus right here, not even aiming this damn gun, got some lucky hits on people. And it is super, super important, super imperative that if you're in the profession of carrying a gun, you need to carry medical equipment. I cannot stress that enough. If you carry a gun, you need to carry medical gear on you. If you don't, you need to do something about that. You need to unfuck yourself and get medical gear on your body. If you're going to carry a gun to induce trauma, then you need to carry the tools to reduce trauma. Nothing else to say about this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.